Welcome back. I'm Tyler, you're watching Scarfing Scarves, and welcome to another installment of I'm Telling Tyler, our new write-in show where you can ask me questions, send me the latest tea, and so long as it's at least Lolita adjacent, you can send your tea and or queries to imtellingtyler@gmail.com. Alright, let's get started with our next submission that is from Mittens. And Mittens says, "Hi Tyler, I need help. I'm newer to Lolita. By that I mean I only have one set, Anthony's Tea Party, and I swear to God, I'm going to cause the Halloween parasol incident of 2019. Whenever I go out in Lolita, lots of people like taking photos, talking to me, but I always have the same problems. People always try to be really smart and say things like, 'Oh my God, you're an actual living doll. You're so weird,' or 'Oh, I saw the TLC episode, you're a living doll.' Whenever I try to correct them, they always complain that I am uneducated and will never let me really educate them. It's getting so bad, I kind of want to stop being a Lolita, but I love it too much. How do I correctly educate people that Lolita and living dolls aren't the same without being rude? Thanks, Tyler. Signed, Mittens." All right, Mittens, you're not going to be able to win them over. You're not, all right? I'll give you two reasons, and I hope they convince you. One of which is that it's not worth your time, all right? It is not worth your time to explain your fashion to any stranger on the street that already has a preconceived notion of what you are. Secondly, people just want a box to put you in, all right? It may drive you absolutely batshit, but they really do just want a box to put you in so they can go on with their day, so they can go home and tell their friends they saw Who's It What's It and be satisfied with their experience. Like, that's all they want. For the people who think you're a living doll and you really want to say something that you just feel moved from the depths of your soul to correct every single stranger who has the wrong impression of you, I mean, you can say, actually, it's a street fashion. I'm part of a fashion community. And when they ask what kind of street fashion, say a fun one or something. I don't fracking know. Like, say a pink one, or it's inspired by Victorian fashions. You didn't ask me this, but to also address the common situation that comes up where people ask you what you're wearing, never, ever, ever say the L word, ever. Don't ever, just don't. Especially if they're over the age of like 40, because their eyes will make a certain kind of horror that you don't need to experience from a stranger. Like, I don't need to be looked at like Beelzebub right now. Never say Lolita, just never. Just avoid it entirely, pretend it doesn't exist, and say, "Oh, I'm part of a fashion community. This is one of the fashions we wear." And if they ask more on it, say, "Oh, it's inspired from Victorian fashions, you know, like Rococo, princess dresses and stuff like that." And they'll be happy. They'll have a story to tell that is quickly encapsulated. I met a lady from a fashion community dressed like a princess, and they can go home without traumatizing their children, all right? Never whip out the L word with strangers. Anytime I'm at a meetup and someone asks us what we're wearing or what we're doing or what's going on, I say, "We're a fashion community. We get together and wear the fashion." And they say, "Oh, that's nice," and then they leave, because that's all they wanted. They don't need like a history lesson on Lolita. They just want a box to put you in. Give them a very short box, and if they say, "Nuh-uh, you're a living doll," well, you can say, "Nuh-uh, you're a cunt." Maybe don't say that. That's probably an overreaction, but honestly, the person wearing the fashion is the expert. The utter gall it takes to have some frackin' nobody, some absolute rando come up to you and say, "I actually know more about the thing you're wearing than you do, even though I don't wear it. And my brain is made of cheese balls." Like, why? Why would you pretend to have more knowledge about a thing than the Lolita who's wearing it does? That makes no fracking sense, but people do it anyway. So if you must be moved, say, "Actually, this is a fashion. I'm part of a fashion community, and it's based off of Victorian fashion." There, done. Like 3 phrases and you're out. Then just just leave. Don't even give them time to respond, and if they follow you responding, beat them to death with your parasol, preferably with no witnesses. I get a little heated about this. I meant to be hands off. This is why I don't say the L word, and I generally don't engage with strangers. I've had too much coffee this morning, but seriously, like, don't waste your time with like random strangers that think they know more than you do. Just let it water off the duck's back. Just let it go. Let it go. I'm not gonna sing the song, but I'm thinking it. Let it go. And secondly, like, if you must explain it to them, never use the L word and just like hit it and quit it. Real quick, leave. All right, just bounce. Don't even give them time to respond. Thank you, Mittens. I hope that helped you. It probably didn't at all. Probably helped me more just to like freak out about it for 5 seconds. But thanks for submitting a question. This will probably keep many people from doing that. So yes, thanks. This next submission is from Jade. I have permission to use their name. And they say, "Hi Tyler, my name is Jade and you're free to use it. I have an eating disorder, and while I'm on the mend, I have a really bad fear of wearing Lolita. I've always loved Lolita and discovered how much I like it through your channel. I have a jumper skirt but it's in my closet because of my body dysmorphia. I have the fear that someone will point out how bad it looks because of my weight, or worse, the dress tearing. I know it fits, but the worry is heavy in my mind. I'd love to wear it one day, but I feel so out of it because of how petite some of the models are for certain brands like Angelic Pretty or Baby the Stars Shine Bright. I could use some advice on how I'm supposed to ignore my eating disorder trying to talk me into self-harming and do something I've always wanted to. I'm really sorry if this topic is too heavy. Signed, Jade. All right, Jade, let's see if we can summarize your concerns here. You say you have an eating disorder. You're on the mend, which congratulations, I know that can't be easy. You really want to wear Lolita, but you have this bad fear that the dress will rip or tear even though you know it fits. It's like your eating disorder is essentially lying to you and it's making it really hard to enjoy the fashion. And you also feel this pressure of these super thin models that you see from Angelic Pretty or Baby the Stars Shine Bright ads, and it makes you feel like you don't really belong. And your main concern is how you're supposed to ignore your eating disorder, specifically trying to talk you into self-harming, and instead get into Lolita, a fashion that you've always wanted to get into and enjoy. In no way is that topic too heavy. This is a really common issue amongst women and amongst Lolitas, because Lolita is one of those primarily hyper-feminine fashion, and there are a lot of women in it, and women are prone in this society with its ridiculous standards to eating disorders. Like, that is a very common experience amongst women and Lolitas, and you shouldn't feel ashamed of it. To discuss how you're exactly supposed to ignore it, I don't know if it's ever truly possible to ignore an eating disorder. But what you can do is counteract it as if you're having a conversation, because the thoughts in your head are saying one thing and the physicality of your body and experience are saying another. What I mean by counteract it first starts with your environment. If there are things in your environment, in your immediate environment, that you can control, things like maybe you're constantly scrolling through Instagram and you're subscribed to a lot of feeds that have really unrealistically thin or photoshopped people in them, stop looking at those things. I'm serious. I know it may seem like, oh, it's just inspiration or whatever for a weight loss journey. It can actually do serious emotional and mental harm into how you see yourself, because the more of those unrealistic bodies, I'm not just talking thin women, I'm talking photoshopped, semi-perfect, almost ethereal people that don't exist in the real world, okay? You take all those filters off, they have skin and wrinkles and bumps and whatever, just like every other person. It makes your brain, in the back of your brain, your subconscious mind sees that and says, oh, that's the standard, that's the new normal. I'm not like that, therefore I am deficient. And that is a problem throughout all fashions. Like, it's not just Lolita that suffers this issue with the photoshopping and just the unhealthfully thin people. So you take a very, very small woman who's probably eating like 2 grains of rice a day already, and then Photoshop her smaller, and you end up with this issue. So whatever in your environment makes you feel lesser than, you need to tune out of for your own recovery right now. Don't look at those pictures, don't scroll through that feed. Fill your feed as much as possible with things that emphasize your inherent worth as a person. You don't have to pay with your body to exist. You don't have to be a certain weight or look a certain way to be accepted or valued as a person. And I know that when you're in the throes of that eating disorder and all of that negative self-talk is going through your brain, it is hard to combat it with logic because it's not a logical thing. But when you're in your darker hours, it helps to be surrounded by people and things that will tell you that those thoughts are wrong, that those thoughts are hurting you, and that those thoughts are born of a culture that uses lies to sell things. It's not real. It's not real people, and it's not made for your mental health. It's made to sell a product, and you are not a product. You are not something to be bought or sold or photoshopped to within an inch of your life. You're a person, and you have to treat yourself like a person, which means respecting yourself enough not to surround yourself while you're hurting and while you're healing with images that set you back. In no way is it your fault to be steeped in a society that seems to think that your worth as a person stems from your physicality. But given that that's the situation that many women are having to deal with, it helps to make sure your environment makes more for growth than for setback. Another piece of advice I would give you in order to help ignore your eating disorder is to go out and find Lolitas that are like you, that look like you, and are living their best lives, because just by existing, just by taking pictures and documenting their experience, they bring visibility and credibility into their own Lolita experience. Anytime you take a picture, you let someone else who's like you know that it's okay. It gives a kind of validity to that. It gives people an idea like, oh, there's other people that look like me or that look like them, and it's okay. It is okay just to be a person. I also know that with eating disorders, a lot of the time there's multiple causes. It's not always just models and magazines. Sometimes eating disorders come from a place of trying to control things in your life, trying to control just one thing when everything else is completely out of your hands, when it feels like your life is spiraling into chaos. It allows you to latch onto one little thing and control it, to have control over just the tiny, tiny part in your life to give you some kind of security, and that can be just as hard to kick. But again, your value as a human being doesn't come from your weight. And I feel like the first step in your journey to better should be to recognize and surround yourself with people who have that same innate value that also don't look like models. People who look like you. People who look like you and have joined and enjoyed the fashion and have proven just by documenting their experiences within the fashion that they are valid, that they exist as Lolitas, and so can you. Without losing a single pound, without changing anything about your face or your body, your experience is valid. I know that sounds cheesy, but I mean, to get down to the meat of it, it's true. Those photoshopped models, even the AP models and the BTSSB models, don't look like their pictures. There is a heavy amount of photoshopping going on. It's not what they look like in real life. They don't even resemble themselves by the time the day's done. To give you a final bit of advice, if it helps, as someone who did once struggle with my own eating disorder, feeling like I wasn't thin enough and I wasn't good enough, and it was that same kind of issue. My life had spiraled out of control and I latched onto this one thing to try and keep me whole, and let me tell you, it didn't make me happy. Every time I got up, I could barely fracking walk. Like, I went to events where I would get a sudden head rush standing and almost fell. Like, I was not okay. But what I learned from that is that it helps to look outside of yourself. It helps to look to other people and understand that your being in this fashion, exactly who you are, is a necessary feat. It's almost a necessary act, not just for yourself, but for others who are waiting to see if it's okay for them to wear the fashion, for them to enjoy Lolita. And if you do this, you lead by example. I know you have many hard days ahead of you, and I know there's no perfect out to an eating disorder, but I want you to know that you're not dumb or weak or in any way lesser for experiencing this. This is extremely common. You are not alone. What you are is worth the while that it will take to build yourself back up to the place of self-acceptance that should be your standard, that should be innate to you even existing. So I hope you give yourself the chance to grow and come to understand that your existence isn't to be metered by how much you weigh or what a scale says, because you're more than that, and life is more than that. And I hope you do come to a place where you feel accepted and you can healthfully look at food again. One more point, this fashion can actually be a home for people to rediscover their bodies in a way that mainstream fashion doesn't. Because Lolita covers so much, because of its very buoyant shape, it allows you to see the clothes before you see your body and come to accept that your body is a base model. What you do with it, what you put on top of it, that becomes an expression of who you are, an aesthetic statement to the world. And you get to make a statement with your body that's not just about how big or small or thin or fat or tall or short you are. You get to really take the raw goods that you are and express them in a way that takes attention away from the physical form, because Lolita, unlike many fashions, is not sexual. Given that it prioritizes femininity over sexualization, you get to see a different side of you. And I think Lolita would be really good for you, especially if you follow Lolita blogs of people that look like you, that remind you of your body as it is now, perfect as it is. I hope that helps. Thank you for submitting, and I'm wishing you the absolute best. And I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you, Jade. This has been Tyler. You've been watching Scarfing Scarves. I'd like to thank my patrons for following me into the depths of What to Fuh. Sorry I wasn't funny this time. And if you'd like to join their ever-growing number, you can head over to patreon.com/lastweeklolitanews for more content that is best viewed while absolutely wasted. Thank you for watching I'm Telling Tyler, and you can send your queries and/or complaints to imtellingtyler@gmail.com. Thanks again, guys, and I'll catch you next time.